Now, all of us are called to this spiritual journey and have been called to this course in particular because we care. We care about our own relationship with our deepest self. We care about the people who are in our lives. We care about the world in our own way. So I wanted to explore this word care today. Because oftentimes we'll use expressions like, I really care about people. I care and I want to help. And while that might be a sincere, and I'm sure it is a sincere expression, what I'd like you to reflect on is when I say this word care, I care about someone, I care for someone. What arises for you? Maybe even you can allow yourself to think about someone in your life that you care about, and maybe even that you're worried about. What shows up when you think about this word care? And maybe sometimes what I do is I imagine that the word is etched on one of those stones, those polished stones, and you can buy this at health food stores or new age stores, and somebody's kind of etched the word into the stone, so care. And you can imagine that stone is being dropped in through the top of your head as though you were a pond. And as the stone drops in, very gently, of course, it creates ripples in your whole being, and it begins to make its way, and it lands wherever it does. Sometimes it might be the heart for some people, other times it might be right down into the belly. So we let that stone drop into our body with its emanation of this word care. And we let it come to settle. And then notice what images come to mind, what feelings might arise, what physical sensations, what stories or impressions. And if you need to just drop that stone back in again to kind of evoke the feeling or the impressions, you can go ahead and do that. And what I'd like you to do is to just very gently open your eyes if they're closed and take a moment to write down in the chat bar anything that you notice that arises when you think about that word care. And if you've written something down and more comes to you, please feel free, because usually there's different layers to this. So allow yourself to kind of, write down what you wrote, and then to stay with this feeling of care and what images, what feelings, what memories, what impressions come to you, what stories. Embracing and protecting. To protect, care for someone who is more vulnerable than you. Full circle love for caring for my parents. Supporting. Helping to heal. I see the faces of all the people I care for, and I feel kind of overwhelmed. Yeah. Devotion to love. Helping other people. Gentleness. Right. I'm also noticing a blockage of feeling care towards certain people. There you go. Some come very naturally. My dog, nieces, etc., and others do not. There you go. Good. That's good awareness, Victoria. Nice. Worrying about others sometimes. There we go. So we're getting to the layer beneath that, right? So at first it's like, love and wanting to help and wanting to give back. And then we notice that, oh, wait a minute, there's something beneath that. Beautiful. Immovable rock sunk to the bottom. Thank you, Jen. Sharing what you have and what you can for the well-being of others. Great. Courage, loving kindness. Heartache. Yeah. Sacrificing self for others. Yeah. Burden of responsibility. Yeah. Good. This is good. So just keep writing things down if you'd like to. I really like this process of taking a word that we use a lot as human beings, and it gets so used that we don't really even realize what it is that it means, what it is that it truly means to us. Right? So we see this word care, and then we go to kind of the more obvious maybe perspectives on it. But then to see that, okay, there's more layers to it. What does care actually mean? And so, great awareness of needing to keep my cup full before offering to others. Yes. So there's some kind of wisdom coming in there as well. Like, in order to truly care, I need to be coming from a place of fullness within myself. And what is that? What is that to care for myself? Embodiment of compassion. Beautiful. So I'm going to keep speaking, but go ahead and keep writing. I love it. So once you feel whatever you wanted to share is complete, I invite you to perhaps close your eyes again and just come back to an internal place. And we're going to continue to explore this question of care. Because if we want to care for each other through soul coaching, through our own devotion to our soul's journey, I mean, many of us sense that actually the best way that we can care for the world and for each other is by anchoring into the deepest, truest place within ourselves. So think about someone in your life as you close your eyes again. Think about someone in your life, just one person that you are both caring for, but also where it's somewhat complicated. You might be worried about this person. You might feel overwhelmed by the care that's needed. So just see if you can bring that person up in your mind's eye. And you might think as you do this of all the ways in which you help this person. You might have memories of helping and also memories of times where it was difficult, where it might not have been appreciated or recognized or reciprocated. Perhaps times where it felt deeply nourishing. So just allowing, it's almost like movie frames start coming by, like just different memories and images around it might come by. And so as you think about that person, one of the things that we can do is to stop for a moment and ask ourselves what it is that's really, really needed in order for the most meaningful and nourishing type of care to come through us. Sometimes we care for people when they seem to be suffering, or they are suffering, or they're in pain. And it's possible that the caring that comes forth might be somewhat distorted by what we think we might need if we were in that kind of pain. Or it might be driven by not wanting that person to feel anxious or depressed or sad. And it might be that we don't want them to feel anxious or depressed or sad or lonely because we're not comfortable with anxiety, depression, sadness, or loneliness. This may be part of the picture. And sometimes it's appropriate to say or do something when someone is feeling sad or anxious. And sometimes, and this is the soul's viewpoint, sometimes it's really appropriate to just hold space for their sadness, to not try to get rid of it in any way, but to be a beacon of presence that is willing to sit with someone in whatever state that they're in. That removing or trying to remove someone's emotional pain may not be the highest form of care. Just stating these as possibilities. How do we know how to most deeply care for someone if we haven't yet really met ourselves and them just as they are? Who is it that is trying to care for or change the situation? Who is it and what is it that we're helping, that we're caring for? Sometimes our caring can be quite reflexive. So what I would like to explore with you here is within each one of us, as we think about this one person in our life that we care for, that we worry about, let's take a moment to notice, first of all, how our breath changes when we think about this person. So just going to the area of the breath and noticing how your breath is showing up right now. Good. So many of us will notice that perhaps it becomes a little bit tight. And so let's just meet this. Let's let the breath be just as it is. To care for ourselves is to meet our experience just as it is. To care for every part of ourselves is to acknowledge things and to meet things just as they are. So that we can allow in any wisdom, any intelligence that might be coming through our moment as it's showing up. So that we can drop below the level of the mind and begin to receive guidance around care from the rest of our being. So to care for my breath in this moment is to open to it, to allow it to expand, to allow it to be tight if it needs to be. Before we try to change anything, let's just acknowledge exactly how it is. And we might notice that actually it begins to change all on its own. There you go. And what feelings arise when you think about this person? Or let's start with physical feelings rather. So where does tension arise in your body when you think about this person that you care for, that you worry about, that you might feel burdened by? Where do you notice those sensations in your body? And let's care for our own body for a moment by acknowledging it, by letting it just be how it is. When we care about someone, we listen to them, we let them express. When we care about our body and its input, we listen first before we try to change or shift anything. And again, you may notice that it begins to soften all on its own. Caring deeply in this way actually makes life more effortless. There's less for us to do. And we begin to see that being is actually the ultimate in caring. So we check into the physical body, we notice what arises, and then we notice if there's any emotions, feelings that show up and where those are living themselves out in our bodies. Maybe the throat, maybe the head, heart. We take the label. We don't need to necessarily name the feeling, although we can start with that. But as quickly as we can, we drop into the level of just pure sensation of that particular feeling. What is it to care for my emotional body, for my feeling body in such a way that nothing is rejected? Everything is welcome. Is it possible that the feeling that I feel around caring for this person is a shared feeling? Is it possible that as an energetic being that is deeply concerned about another, that the energy fields begin to blend and to mirror each other? And so if someone's anxiety makes me feel anxious, or someone's sadness makes me feel sad, is it possible that they are simply awakening certain emotions that live here in my being as well. There's really no such thing as someone making me feel a particular way. They can only reflect back energies that live here within me. And as I make space for these feelings, I have less of a need to get rid of them in others. I recognize that as I open to them, they actually liberate me to a greater depth and feeling of at homeness within my own body, within my own being. One of the ways that a soul coach cares for others, whether that be in a subtle way with family and friends or in a formal way with our clients, is that we feel with others. We feel along with others. And we refrain from calling a feeling that is being felt in the shared field as ours or theirs. If we're feeling it, it must be ours to feel. If we've been gifted with a sensitive, nervous, and energy body, then this sensitivity must be here because it's one of our superpowers. We have the capacity to feel. We are feeling. And it takes more energy to push feelings away than it does to simply open to this beautiful capacity that we all have to feel deeply. If it's showing up here in this sensory experience, then it's mine to feel. The work of putting a feeling on this person or that person is actually very tiring and very confusing. And inaccurate, ultimately. And that's my experience, and I want you to find that out for yourself. But what I'm encouraging you to experiment with here is when we're feeling something in relationship with someone that we care about, that we care for, what would it be to recognize that whatever is being felt is actually being felt because we do have that capacity? And when someone in our life is suffering and in pain, and it seems like they do need our care, it's very possible that they do not have that capacity to feel the anxiety, the sadness, whatnot. And that our greatest role can simply be to open to our being's capacity to hold space for it to the best of our ability. And this might just be a very caring thing to do. As I was preparing for this evening, I thought about a beautiful poem by Rumi. You've probably heard it before, but out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, and I'll meet you there. So I've seen it translated in different ways, but out beyond ideas of wrong and right, of right and wrong, there is a field, I'll meet you there. So oftentimes there's this sense of, this person is suffering and they shouldn't be suffering. There's the right and wrong coming in. I'm feeling this feeling and I shouldn't be feeling it. There's the right and wrong coming in. So the path to liberation is about very much, or at least from the perspective I'm speaking from right now, is to let go of your opinions about what feelings are right or wrong to feel. And then he goes on to say, when the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. So when we let go of ideas of right and wrong, the soul lies down in that grass and the world is too full to talk about. And oftentimes this is where, if we're seeing this quote on Google or whatnot, this is where they'll end the quote. But there's a third line, probably more as well. But it says, ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make sense anymore. Even the phrase each other doesn't make sense. So in the land of the soul, as we go deeper and deeper, there is ultimately only one. And that one is being experienced here. That's all we actually know. So when we feel feelings in relationship, those feelings are not because of the other person. The other person is activating certain feelings that might have been dormant in ourselves. Why are they being activated? Because they're ready to be seen. They're ready to be welcome. And so to care is to open to our moment as fully as we can, to care for our own experience. This here is where we experience that oneness. We can't project meaning onto somebody else's suffering or pain. We need ourselves. We care for ourselves. Whatever it is we're feeling in that particular relationship. And from there, we slowly but surely deepen into a place where there is no other. And the caring that comes forth, or perhaps the caring that just, the caring that says, don't say anything right now. Sometimes, it's very caring to say some comforting words, but sometimes it's best to not say anything. Or it's very caring to do something for somebody, but sometimes that's not the most caring thing to do. And the soul knows that, those intricacies of, moment to moment, wise and loving care come from the deepest place in us. We're not going to learn this overnight, but what I'm encouraging you to do is to, one, recognize that your capacity to feel really deeply is, as I said, it's your superpower. And the fact that you are feeling deeply means that that's just the way that you're wired, and you've come in that way, and because it's going to be necessary for the way that you're going to serve in the world. So while it can be helpful to protect oneself from challenging energies out there, make no mistake, those challenging energies exist within you. Otherwise, you wouldn't think you needed to protect yourself from it. So it's fine to do that, because sometimes there certainly are situations that are just overwhelming and we need to be in them. And so do whatever you can to kind of stay as close to your center as possible. But at the same time, what I'm encouraging you is to recognize that what is being felt here in response to this relationship, to this other person in my life, is actually an invitation to experience my capacity for presence, to hold space for this pain that's showing up in the context of this relationship. We're constantly bumping into the edges of our capacity to hold pain, especially if we're in helping professions. And so when we bump into that edge, it's not a sign that we've done anything wrong or that we have to make any changes really, or extend ourselves more. It's actually a sign that we've grown into the edge of our presence, and that life is saying you're ready to expand your capacity for presence for this too, for a deeper level of sadness, for a deeper level of anxiety, for a deeper level of loneliness. And what happens is that the more that we experience our capacity for that kind of presence, the more that we can be out there in the world just completely open and not feel drained, not feel like we have to kind of push things away or, have ideas about where the energies are coming from. We're just open. And so things come, they move through, they come, they move through. And when we are in the presence of someone that is that open emotionally and energetically, it is there's a transmission that comes from that gives other people deeper access to their own sense of presence. When I sit with someone who is deeply present, I automatically have access to a deeper capacity for presence in myself. And that's really the essence of soul coaching, is sitting with if we're doing it formally, sitting with our clients, finding out what's challenging in their lives right now. And letting go of the concept of me and the other. I have to heal them. I have to help them. No, it's two people that have come together for whichever reasons. I'm posing as the soul coach. You're posing as the person that needs help. But actually, we're both learning and growing here. So it's two people that open up to what arises in this shared field. And I will model it because I've had maybe a little bit more training, or I'm interested in this. And then we get to experience a larger capacity for presence. The other person gets to experience that too. And this larger capacity for presence, then they can take with them out of the session. And now when they do encounter those feelings, they have the experience of tapping into this great holding that we all have access to. And if I can model a holding for sadness, for depression, for loneliness, if I can model that through my own being, then in my own life, I don't have to do all of those things that human beings do to avoid ourselves, right? The eating, the shopping, the technology, all of that. And, I still do it. We all do it. But there's less and less of it. There's more that's just deep reverence for this moment just as it is. And when the difficult moments come and the difficult feelings, there's a sense of greater and greater welcoming for them, because we know that they're a part of the alchemy of this moment. And when we sit with someone and we are caring for them from that deepest place, I'm caring for you not because I'm trying to help you get rid of your loneliness, because your loneliness is also part of your alchemy, and your anxiety or depression is also part of what's transforming you into a higher and more authentic version of yourself. So the last thing I want to do is to take that away from you. I think you all know where I'm coming from here. We've all, had moments where we're struggling, and maybe we do want someone to take care of us, but the most caring thing that they can do, at least from what I've experienced, is meeting me just as I am. That feels to me like the deepest holding that feels good for me. It's not that I don't also appreciate them bringing me soup or giving me a massage. That's all lovely. But if these movements, these actual expressions are coming from a place of caring for the whole being over here and over there, then it feels to me that what happens is that it feels invigorating for us. That the giving doesn't drain us, doesn't exhaust us, because we're not trying to manipulate reality, right? It takes a lot of energy to manipulate reality. But to allow ourselves to flow with reality, even if that includes difficult feelings, that is energizing. That leaves us feeling full at the end of a day. So let's just come back to ourselves here. And let's just let all of that go. And I want to encourage us to just take a moment to settle here. Sometimes we tend to go into the mind tends to get a little bit active. And so I want us to really kind of drop back into our bodies and just feel the physicality of our being settled in our cushions, and feel the rhythm of our breath. Sometimes too, perhaps when I teach, the mind gets busy with how we're going to apply this in our life. And so just let all of that go. Let the mind do what it's doing, but let's just really kind of bring our awareness here to our sensory experience. Feel our breath. Good. Now opening to our physical bodies and noticing where it feels relaxed, where it might feel, in comparison, a little more tight. And again, letting all of that both be here. Great. Noticing any feelings, any energetic sensations. If you're familiar with your chakras, you might want to see if any of those are activated in this moment, and just continue to open the arms of your presence to everything that shows up on your inner screen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And as we open to our experience just as it is, that level of our experience that I often call presence and others call presence as well, begins to be a little bit stronger. So we're less kind of focused in on the details of our experience, and there seems to be more space here. So I want to speak a little bit about presence here in terms of how we might experience that. So when we allow everything to be as it is, as we've been speaking about in past weeks, we begin to notice what's noticing. We notice that everything is happening in the context of this great holding space. And as we completely let go of control, we see these details just coming in and out all on their own. Sensations of breath are coming in and out all on their own. Thoughts are flowing by like clouds on a conveyor belt. The feelings are flowing like multiple rivers in our being. the energy is rippling or pulsating, radiating, all on its own. We become the watcher, the noticer, presence. And the invitation here is to rest back as presence, to continue to lean back into presence. To really allow yourself to soak in that. And when we settle into presence, we may notice a greater sense of spaciousness within ourselves. Less density, perhaps. And maybe spaciousness in the sense that the boundaries of the body seem to kind of disappear, or we feel like a blown up version of ourselves. And the heart and the places where we tend to protect might seem a little more relaxed. There might be a greater sense of harmony within your being. So conflicts, which can be areas of struggle or resistance or tension in the body, have perhaps let go a little bit. There's a greater sense of flow and harmony. And you also might notice that your being feels more grounded, more settled, more earthbound. So simultaneously more expanded as well as more grounded. And presence even notices that part of us that wants to grasp onto thoughts. We can just let it be. Let it grasp all at once, because we're back here in presence. There's this ongoing kind of presence is witnessing this ongoing push-pull. So the part of us that wants to push certain things away and wants to grab onto other things. And we can just watch that from this distance. The play of the conditioned self, grasping at what it thinks it needs and wants, pushing away what it thinks it doesn't need and doesn't want. So we don't have to stop doing that. We can just notice that it's happening and notice what's noticing. And here we are back again. in the peace of presence.